Hey gang, it's your old buddy Platt back for part 4 of our series, How to Make Sake. Let's do a quick review. Part 1 was just the introduction to the topic. We went over some basic sake terms and kind of went over how the process was going to work. Part 2 was something called shubo, or the yeast mash, or we made a yeast starter. We added a little koji, a little rice, we activated our yeast, we got the process going. And that led us to part 3, which we just completed, which was the main mash buildup. We did progressively larger additions of koji and rice. We did 3 rice additions, 2 koji additions. We've now got a complete mash. And this part 4, is the main fermentation. Main fermentation takes place over days 12 to 27, roughly 2 weeks. Again, each day, this is an active process. I've said this will be more active than regular brewing. In regular brewing, fermentation, we leave it in the fermenter and we just go away for a couple weeks. Here, twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, we're going to have to stir up our mixture. Got quite a bit of froth here. One of the things it says in the ingredients that we could do at the start of day 12 is that we could take a gravity reading if we want to measure the alcohol by volume. One of the things that becomes apparent, and even says in the directions, this is really thick liquid. If you're able to look down in here, and we'll eventually get a shot in here. This is almost like a rice pudding. And it's probably too thick to take a real accurate measurement using a hydrometer. This is probably something I would need one of those refracting lights that does the degree Play-Doh thing. I just don't own one. However, reading further along in the recipe, that if we follow the instructions, which we have, we should end up around 20% alcohol by volume. So that's what we're going to shoot for, and kind of work on the assumption of. After 2 weeks, then we're going to have our first real decision, and that decision will be: will we filter, unfilter, pasteurize, unpasteurize? So we're just going to, for the next 2 weeks, twice a day do our stirring. I'm not going to show that; it's pretty self-explanatory. So when we come back 2 weeks later, it'll be time for that first decision. Alright, real quick, just wanted to show you what fermentation looked like. It's quite active. You could probably tell just by looking at this too, this is kind of a really thick looking mixture. It kind of looks like tapioca pudding gone bad. So again, the hydrometer reading would be kind of a tough thing to do. I just don't think we got an accurate reading. This is about, I think we're on day 15. I'm getting ready to do my nighttime stirring. We'll come back now at the end of day 27, at the end of the main fermentation, and that's when we'll make our decision on filtering, non-filtering, pasteurizing, what have you. So I'll see you then. Alright gang, it's been a couple of weeks and we are through the main fermentation. We have stirred once every morning, once every evening for the last 2 weeks. At this point, if we wanted to, we could literally just take a spoon, scoop out the rice solids, and have unfiltered, unpasteurized sake, very cloudy sake that would be ready to drink. I believe the term, check my notes real quick, completely unfiltered sake is something referred to as doboroku. That's what we'd have here. If we wanted to save some of that, or know that, well, we don't want to drink it all today, maybe keep it down the line for a future party, something like that, we could take it then and take that cloudy unfiltered sake and pasteurize it, and then we could have it safe to drink for a couple months or more. We also then, if we wanted to produce something more traditional, we could then filter that. We could take the sake, filter it through something like a brew in the bag, one of those fine mesh bags, and then we rack it to a secondary fermenter, cold crash, let the thing settle, re-rack again. That is our options. we would do a secondary fermentation for a couple of weeks. By then we'd get something a lot clearer, a lot more close to traditional sake, and at that point we could decide if we wanted to again leave unpasteurized or pasteurize some. If you get to a filtered sake that's unpasteurized, the term sometimes it's draft sake or namazaki. What we're going to try to do is a little bit of all the above. I'm going to take a couple of traditional homebrewing bottles. I'm going to take 2 bottles and put in unpasteurized, unfiltered sake. Then I'll take some unfiltered sake and we'll do pasteurization. I have not tried this before, so this will be my first time. Pasteurization is actually something you can do with homebrew too, but we're going to try it, do it with sake, a couple of bottles. That will then wrap up this part 4, and then in the next part, part 5, we'll go through a secondary fermentation. We'll move this into a 1-gallon glass carboy. We'll cold crash, we'll settle, we'll re-rack, eventually clear it up even more, filter, and then at the end, then we can decide, all right, do we want to pasteurize again, not pasteurize, what have you. But we'll have a little bit of unfiltered, unpasteurized, unfiltered, pasteurized, and then filtered, unpasteurized, give us a little bit of variety. So that being said, let's pasteurize some sake. All right, gang, real quick, we're going to pasteurize a couple of bottles here. I pulled off 2 bottles of our unfiltered sake, went ahead and capped it, so it's going to be unfiltered and unpasteurized. Then I pulled off 2 more bottles here that we will pasteurize. So a total of 4 12-ounce bottles is out of our batch. We're shooting for 1 gallon, so probably when we go into our secondary fermentation, we're going to be dealing with around 3 quarts. Just to let you know there, when we do part 5 secondary fermentation, it won't be a full fermenter. What we're going to do here and how you'd pasteurize is we're going to give this basically a warm water, hot water bath. In a commercial setting, it's almost a glorified hot shower that they're getting. To pasteurize, or what the goal is make this more shelf stable. Regular homebrew, the sake, whatever, after a couple of weeks, if it's unpasteurized, unfiltered, you've just got a biological process. You might start getting, something growing, whatever. This is to make this sake that would normally good for 2 to 3 weeks, good now for 2 to 3 months. The way we're going to do it is we've got a hot water bath here, and I'm just going to stick our bottles in. As you notice, we don't have a cap on. This is not, we're not carbonated, so I'm not worried about losing CO2. And we're going to use the thermometer here. We want to get that liquid inside, the internal temperature, up to 140 degrees. That is just hot enough that we should kill off most creepy crawlies, microorganisms, but we don't want to go too much higher, because if we got to the 160s, 170s, that's when alcohol starts to boil off, and we don't want to do that. We just want to get this warm enough to where we kill off most of the bacteria. Also, because we're not trying to make this carbonated, it would stop most yeast activity. Just again, make this shelf stable. So I'm going to let this warm up. When we hit 140, I'll cap it, and we'll come back to wrap up part 4 of our sake making series. Okay, gang, time to wrap up. Before we do, I want to cover a couple more things on the pasteurization. One, I filled these bottles about halfway up the neck. Once the water heated up, we got a little foaming and a little foam over. No big deal. Again, we didn't have the caps on. The bottles were sitting in water. Just something I want to let you know that happened, something you may run into. Maybe fill just up to the star of the neck, up to you. Also, too, one thing I thought of while this was foaming up was, if you were to pasteurize homebrewed beer, carbonated beer, and you had the caps on, I would suggest a couple of things. A, do it in a deeper pot that you can cover. Also, you might want to try a double boiler, because with that CO2 inside and you add heat, you're going to build some pressure. You might get a bottle bomb. The way we done it, with the bottle stuck out or whatever, you would not want to do that with the cap on. We didn't have a cap, so we weren't worried about the pressure. just something to think about if you tried to pasteurize your regular carbonated beer. So we've got 2 bottles of our pasteurized but unfiltered sake, 2 other bottles of our unpasteurized, unfiltered sake. Our next step going into part 5 of the series is filtration and then a secondary fermentation where we're going to clear up our sake and again make something closer to our traditional sake, which then we'll bottle and kind of wrap up. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.